You good? Okay. It's 6 o'clock. It's June 4th. This is the work session of the Somerset School Board. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alicia, can you take a roll call, please?
Steve Digallo.
Here.
Corey Miller.
Here.
Ian McDonald.
Here.
Lori Belargin. Here. Bruce Belargin.
Here.
Danny Erickson. Here. Matt Kukal.
Here. All right, district mission, core values, and protocol reminders are all on the agenda. If you can just take a minute to read through those and remind yourself of what they are, and then I'll ask for an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to include the all-school handbook to item number 5. And the virtual.
All right, so there's a motion to amend the agenda to add the virtual school handbook and the all-school handbook to 5. It would be 5A, 4 and 5. Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. So a motion by Ian, a second by Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Public comment. I didn't receive any. Shannon, Dr. Donnelly's not here tonight. Alicia, did you receive any? Anybody in the audience? Very good. Item number 3, superintendent search. I just wanted this on here. You all got a copy of the contract that we presented to Dr. Grambo. We negotiated last week with him, and I hope you got a chance to review it. It is on the consent agenda to accept it, so there's really no possible action with this, but if anybody has any discussion they'd like to bring up, now's a great time. Thanks for working through it.
Yes, thank you very much for everybody's work on it, Alicia as well. You did a lot of work, even though we had a search firm. There is an item in the contract under number 13 that was not as we discussed. I hope that it can be addressed before we sign it. If not, perhaps it could be amended in the future.
Okay, so that item is, number 13 is the early termination, essentially, or not enough notice. So like there was some confusion between HR office, myself, and the discussion that we had here. When I read it, Ian read it, we both missed it, being we went to the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. So I guess I'll throw it back to the board. You know, if you would like to add in the $4,000 and the $5,000 in penalties due to a late resignation, we can, and we can represent him and ask him to sign it. I guess I'm of the opinion, I'm okay with it as it stands. There still is the 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And I will own that error. Read through it and I completely missed it, so.
Yeah, me too. The dates didn't move.
The dates did move. The dollar amounts, we did the 1, 2, 3, it just, the extras didn't carry over, and I own that, so.
Was David particular to it at all? That'd be the biggest factor.
No, he was not. I mean, we discussed it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we never discussed the full 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I mean, I'm very confident that's not gonna be an issue with him. So, but I guess it's the will of the board. If you'd like it changed and brought to him, I can do that. Or if you wanna leave it as it stands,
I think we can leave it as it is.
I'm fine with that.
It's not enough to really change any history. Just leave it. Either way.
I'm good with keeping it. Keep it, okay. Ian?
Yep.
Okay. All right, we will leave the contract as is, that everyone has. I do have a signed copy from him, so once we pass that consent agenda, we'll sign it, and it will be effective July 1. Any other discussion on that?
Again, like you said, thanks for everybody who helped with that and was part of it. Lots of meetings in the board for taking all the time it took, so.
Yeah, I'll second that. Between Alicia and just the staff in this office, the last week and a half was really busy, so I appreciate all of the work that was dedicated to that. All right, item number 4, superintendent report. As I mentioned, Dr. Donnelly's not here. I chatted with her earlier. Really the only thing on there is that 2025 leadership cohort summary. Melissa Bjorkman and Abby Ander. We will give you the floor. We'd love to hear what it was about, your experience, and your thoughts.
Okay, so good evening.
Thank you for letting us take the time from Dr. Donnelly's spot. I appreciate it. My name is Abby Andert, and before I share my experience with the pilot leadership cohort, I'd like to give you a little background about myself. I'm a proud graduate of Somerset, I'm a longtime community member, and now I'm a parent of 2 students in the district, a junior who swears she's a senior, and a first grader. Over the years, I've seen 5 superintendents lead our district. They each brought their own styles and their own strengths, but Shannon has been the most innovative, positive, and connected leader. She's made a lasting impression and will be missed by many parents, staff, and students. What truly sets Shannon apart is her presence. She doesn't just work behind the scenes, but she shows up. It doesn't matter the school event that's happening, you'll find her cheering on our students. She supports those participating, but also those in the stands, expecting kindness, respect, and sportsmanship towards teammates and opponents. She models the values that she expects from all of us every day. When Shannon introduced the leadership cohort, I was really excited to join. This group welcomed anyone who wanted to learn. Staff, students, community members, it was great. And everyone who participated engaged in honest conversations, we listened respectfully, and we asked challenging, thought-provoking questions. We didn't always agree, but what mattered most was our respect for each other. We each brought a unique perspective. These discussions went deeper than surface-level topics. We were asked what we wanted to learn about, and each session was built uniquely on our feedback. We covered important topics: the overall state of the district finance, district curriculum, student wellness, and technology in the schools. We only met for 90 minutes once a month, but honestly, I could have stayed all day long. These topics are so important, and I realized that I wasn't as informed as I thought I was. The cohort gave me the chance to grow, not just as a parent, but as a thinker. One session that really stood out was when we talked about technology in schools. Technology is everywhere today, and hearing teachers talk about their challenges, making sure students are using it appropriately in classrooms and in assignments, but also using this technology like Google Classrooms to share assignments and announcements. It's pretty eye-opening. And then hearing how this translates at home, parents setting their own rules and their own limits, kind of makes your head spin a little bit. But it helped me understand the delicate balance between school and families and all that we have to manage. And it showed me how important communication and trust is between teachers, students, and parents when it comes to all this technology. It's not just about the devices or the programs, it's about how they're used in a supportive, positive learning and responsible way. This is just one example of the meaningful conversations that we had. Most of our discussions also made me reflect on my own workplace and how businesses like schools need to adapt and better understand new generations of workers. This experience isn't just about schools, it's about life. It becomes a starting point for me to how to explain how I think and how I lead at home and in my professional life. One slide that Shannon shared every session had one quote on it. In the absence of information, people will make it up. I think about this a lot. It applies to so many areas of everybody's life. When people don't understand or have the facts, it creates space for rumors, gossip, and assumptions. These have no place in our school, and honestly, they shouldn't have a place in our community either. I truly can't thank Shannon enough for creating this space and for her commitment to educate anyone willing to learn, grow, and connect. But I would be remiss if I didn't also thank my fellow cohort members. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being yourselves and for being open and honest. Sometimes when your opinion or your parenting style is different from others, it's hard to speak up. But that honesty and vulnerability is exactly what made this experience so meaningful and successful. It allowed real connections to form, genuine understanding to happen, and real growth to begin. I sincerely hope that our next superintendent continues these sessions. They were incredibly valuable, and I would absolutely return again and again to keep learning and to help others see how great this school and our community is. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Sounds like it was like a great experience.
It was fantastic. If you have any questions after Melissa goes, we're happy to answer them.
Yes.
All right. Hi, I'm Melissa Bjorkman. I have 2 kids in the district. Currently, they're in 5th grade and kindergarten. I've lived in Somerset for 15 years, and I'm an active member of the elementary parent group, a local Girl Scout leader, and you can typically find me most nights on one of the sporting fields between the various activities the kids are in that keep us busy year-round. And adding to that list, this year I took the opportunity to join the pilot leadership cohort offered by Shannon. I wanted to get involved in the cohort due to the change in the school this year, which brought different challenges to our family. I honestly just got tired of hearing about our schools getting bashed online. Over the years, I've gotten to know the staff at those schools and build relationships with them, and it hurts to hear some of the things being said. And I won't lie, I've had a few things that have bothered me with our transition to middle school, but I'm one of those people who puts their money where their mouth is and decided to jump in, and learning was the best way to make a change. The cohort was open to anyone that wanted to join. I found we had a good mix of people with different relationships to the school, some staff, some parents, some community members. But more important than anything, it was people who were willing to show up and put in the time to better understand the workings of the district. We covered many of the topics that truly gave me a better understanding of how things worked. I've improved my terminology and understanding, such as knowing the difference between curriculum versus what is a resource. I've learned that policies are available to parents who would like to more control over their children, such as media waivers and opt-out choices. I learned about budgets and referendums and how they work and why they're needed. We discussed technology changes in our district, how our district is adjusting to it. I met new people and had some honest and good conversations. We brainstormed and put it all on the table so that in the end we can accomplish our goal of improving our district and the relationship it has with this community, all to benefit our kids. One thing I really took away was just how little the district is selling itself on its accomplishments. The district has exceeded expectations rating, scored 11 out of 39 schools in the CESA 11. Our score is the same or higher than 83% of the districts in the state. 94.9% of our students are on track to graduate. 16 college credit bearing courses are offered to our kids, and of that, 1,023 credits were earned by the 2024 graduates. There are 42 club sports and academic activities that are available to students, with at least 75% of the high school students in at least one sport, club, or activity. The list goes on. I mean, these are huge accomplishments for this community, and I would love to see the district celebrated more for its accomplishments. Our kids are some really good hands and have a bright future ahead thanks to this district and staff. I'm grateful that Shannon took the lead and started this cohort. I know most, if not all, would love to continue in the years to come, so we can continue to support staff and foster that relationship with the community. I hope that the new superintendent also sees value in this and knows that our group is there to support him in ways we can as he steps into this new role and learns how wonderful Somerset is. I would also like to take this time to encourage any current board members or anyone interested in that position to join the cohort if it's available next year. The information learned this year has been invaluable, and I think it would be great to have some representation on the cohort that would benefit the district and the board. Thank you for allowing us to speak today, and I hope more will join us next year if it's continued.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for them?
I didn't think board members were allowed on it.
It was open to everybody.
Okay. Well,
What's the sign-up process like? We just show up voluntarily?
Yeah, I mean, last year Shannon just had people email her who was interested, so we were on an email chain, but at any point people could, you could join with the last meeting, so it was pretty much open to anybody if you could make it to the meetings. Like she said, they're 90 minutes once a month on a Wednesday. Yeah.
Was there like a focus topic each time, or who
Yes,
structured them?
so each meeting had a specific topic. So we had district, like the overview of the district to start, and then district finance, curriculum, student wellness, and then technology in schools. So we had 5 meetings.
And those were determined at the beginning. Everybody that had shown interest, she sent out like a Google form so we could rank like what our top 3 or top 5 were, and then we just focused on the ones that were at the top. So again, if it's offered going forward, I think that there's still a ton we can cover that we didn't, but for now we just did like the top ones that people were interested in.
We ran out of time every meeting. There was never enough time to get through everything that we wanted to get through.
Were they, or could they be video recorded for people that can't attend but want to watch it later, or virtually?
I don't think it's a public meeting. I think it's just a, group getting together for discussion. So I'm not sure that it would even be appropriate to video.
I think there had to be a lot of conversation that took place too, right? I mean,
Yeah, a lot of small, like we all had
Had to be
like small
there.
group conversations, mix of demographics, right, at each table between staff and parent and community members.
And I would say there was a lot, I sat on it as well, I would say there was a lot of vulnerability around the tables, because honestly, we did not all agree with one another, and our perspectives were very, very different, on several different things. And it felt like a really safe place for anybody to be able to speak kind of what they felt their perspective was, and it was welcomed, and it was some really positive discourse, I would say, even though we didn't always agree with, because everybody, when you talk technology, everybody's viewpoint of what should or shouldn't be in kids' hands is quite different. But we had very, very healthy conversations about what that could look like. So it was very positive from lots of different perspectives.
How was it, sorry, so many questions. How was the conclusions communicated upstream, or what was done with kind of some of the findings?
I think part of it is kind of like left undone, and unfortunately, part of that is with Shannon leaving. That's why we're hoping that next year it can continue, because we do have a lot of parents or people that were in there that are offering to like make subcommittees, like to help work on the transition from elementary to middle school, or like what have you, anything that seems to be a sticking point for parents to like come in and help with that. So I feel like there's still a lot of work left to do. So like I said, we're hoping the next superintendent would like to continue it. This was just kind of our first year, and I don't think she had any she wasn't disappointed in how many people showed up, like she didn't have any expectations, so I think what she got was above her expectation, and unfortunately, with her leaving, I think it's kind of cut a little short with what she would like to do with it, so hopefully it goes.
And I think some of it too is a lot of learning, right? Like there are a lot of community members and parents, right, who don't sit through district finance meetings, or they don't know about Fund 10 and Fund 80 or right, any of these things unless you're watching the board meetings every week. And so to drill down and to talk about what those different funds are, what they can be used for, and kind of get some creative ideas out of some of these funds, and what, and just brainstorm, right? We talked about creating a district podcast to really get some of this information out there to people who can't maybe watch a hour, 90-minute long board meeting, but maybe they can listen to a podcast, right? 20 minutes on an overview of this, or, anything like that, that should just make our district shine the way that we all know that it can, and it should.
Great, anything else? Well, thanks for being here, thanks for reporting out, and thanks for participating in it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 5, 2025-2026 school and district student handbooks. Building principals, want to start with elementary?
For sure.
Perfect.
Okay. That you all got, right? It's all linked right there. We don't have a lot of changes in the elementary this year, just kind of almost cleaning things up, making things a little clearer, if you will. First off, on page 1, the date, of course, moved to 25-26. On page 2, we're striking the words "on Fridays" because we send things home as neat. Like if something's important that needs to go out on a not a Friday, we used to always do like it was always like the Friday was the day, and a lot of parents feel like Fridays get too cluttered and too much, and now the scoop is on Tuesday, and so we just took away the days kind of saying the when, right? Page 3, we added, please, this is an addition, please do not contact your child directly without notifying the office. We've had a few situations where parents are smartwatching, messaging, and so trying to take care of that like a student goes to the Walker line and they get a phone call that says, well, no, I need to get on a bus, right? We need to make sure that we know where all the kids are. Change to many students bring, it's the same thing, many students bring cell phones or two-way communication devices and electronics to use on their bus rides to and from school. I just changed the wording to be other two-way communications, because we found that we don't want to say you can't use these things because it's a long bus ride. They need to be able to use them, but we really are seeing in smartwatches, so we added that other two-way communication. And then the whole section again on the newsletter, it seemed redundant because it was on here twice, the Spartan Scoop, and the Spartan Scoop has kind of changed its way, and it kind of has a landing page for things that are happening on our website. And then finally, in addition, we added the word snow pants to our recess and cold weather clothing requests. So Questions?
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
middle school.
All right, so middle school, page 1 is just the editorial change of the year. Page 4, just the first part, cleaning up just kind of the title there and making it look more like our district policy, adding that other two-way communications. They mentioned technology and trying to keep up with all the things that are there. So rather than try to list them all out, put that in there as the general term that also shows up in our district policy, and just an editorial. I like the way it says reference policy versus reminders. The biggest change from what we've been doing the past year and a half is striking out the use of the cell phones during the lunch break. And so what would our school day would look different is students can use them before school and after school. And there is a section there where it mentions teacher permission. I was asked a really good question, what does that mean? So once in a while, there's projects or something going on where kids are recording things. On this Chromebook, there's multiple cameras. On a student Chromebook, it's one. And so if they're trying to record something, you're trying to film like this, and it's awkward as heck. And so there are a few seldom situations where that phone might be a tool that is used in the classroom for that purpose. The Chromebook's awesome, but if you're trying to film something and put it in a presentation or show what you're doing in an experiment or something, it's awkward as heck because you can't watch what you're doing, right? And then just updated, like I mentioned, with the personal communication devices to make that match with what we have above. And then reference to smartwatches. We have kids that wear them, we're just making sure we're not using that as a communication device. And definitely, I mean, there's value to it, but just so it's not becoming instead of the cell phone, I have that in my basement, so. Questions about?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that gonna be hard to monitor?
So, right now, when we made this shift about a year and a half ago, where we got rid of them during passing time, the first probably 3 weeks next year will be the hardest. It was then. It's one of those things where, parents have asked me, how do you know? Well, when they go to lunch right now, you watch kids go get them to use them if they're gonna use them, right? So staff notice them, the first step is, hey, just put it back in your locker. If it's redundant, keep going, then we, work with parents and students with consequences. We found that it's just become what we do, and therefore I don't think it's difficult to monitor. Is there gonna be someone that's gonna try to sneak it and find a way? Absolutely. With anything we have in our handbook, there's gonna be someone that's gonna try it, and someone that's not going to like it. What we have here is very consistent with our surrounding districts as well. There's only one district that touches us, Hudson, that allows more access to their phones. Actually, this is right in line with everyone that's around us at what they do too. So we are not an outlier of what we're gonna be expecting either.
But aren't they in the process of making it more strict? They just haven't come out with
I
it.
think Hudson is, but currently what they have right now. But, yeah, that could be, I believe so, but right now. And it's one of those things when you mention all the technology things, this is another, screen time, a chance to take some of that back and promote social interaction. And we've seen that, especially when our lunchtime, kids will dive into a phone and all of a sudden, oh, I didn't eat my food, And so that's, part of this is to promote that healthy part of the day too, is connected to it, intentionally really. This is something we discussed as a whole staff, the pros and cons to it, and just taking a next step to what we already were doing. Any questions?
Have there been any survey questions on that? What's the?
So,
Yeah, they talked about that today, didn't they,
yeah,
Joe?
there was, I believe 2 years ago, a parent survey, and it was 30-some% of our parents said don't have med school, if I'm recalling that. And then there was a pretty large percent, I want to say, I can picture the circle got in my head, 60-some% were in favor of us having some restrictions over when they're used. You know, it wasn't, 90% of our parents saying don't have them at all, no, but we did have support there, and we have people that support, yeah. There's not a need for this, and it is, you know, this sits in your pocket and buzzes, what do you want to do, right? And so, in a classroom, all the things, it just encourages greater engagement in the school day.
Yeah. It's difficult for every parent.
Yeah,
We don't know.
it is, and like they mentioned when they're talking, because everyone has their own perspective on when you get one of these
Yeah.
and what it can be used for, right? And so we end up being the melting pot for all of that. I think, especially in middle school, I think that's a time when a lot of kids get, I think it's trickling down the pan more. But it becomes unintentionally part of our routines to teach habits of when this is okay to have and used and what for. Not that we're trying to impose what we do on anyone, but just like, there's an appropriate time where this is communication, entertainment, but that doesn't jive with most of the school day.
Yeah. I'm sure we've all checked our kids' activity and we're like,
Yeah.
sort of days during the day, man.
You know,
There's a lot of activity going
there are
on. What are you doing?
Yeah, and there are exceptions to it. I mean, if we have kids that need it for medical uses, obviously they still carry it all the time. If something comes up where a family reaches out and there's really a need for something's going on, we can adjust with that, but this is where we start from, and then we work with people if we need to.
I feel like it needs you.
Anything else for middle?
Just because it's like the main year. I think, well, hopefully by high school it's a little more figured out, right? Because this was a tough one with this topic. With David coming in, if he has any, is it worth getting any input and possibly, are we able to review it, or is tonight it's locked in for the year?
Well, it comes to the next meeting for approval. This is first reading.
Okay.
I'm sure things can always be amended if need be.
Yep.
Great. Oh, that's good.
Okay. High school.
High school. All right, so first couple things here is editorial things. The title page, updating the year. Same thing with page 1 with the introduction, updating the year. Page 4 of our handbook relates to academic honesty, and we added a component there to address the usage of AI. That, speaking of things to try to keep up on, and that has evolved so quickly, even from 1 to 2 years ago. So just making sure that we've got that addressed within our handbook. If students choose to plagiarize full or partial work and submit it as their own from AI usage, and claim that that's their own work, we have that addressed. Continued on page 4, our academic recognition with our Laude system. We wanted to make sure that we've outlined very clearly that any course that is offered, so the Laude scores for our graduating seniors are based on their classes that they've taken through first semester of senior year. However, there is at least one class that is only offered during second semester of senior year. Right now, that one is CIS University Writing. We wanted to make sure that we didn't inadvertently penalize any of our kids with their Laude recognition for a class that is only offered during the second semester of their senior year. So we've spelled that out. And then just with the different course changes that have been approved leading into this school year, we updated our Laude courses to reflect those courses that are being offered now at the high school. Page 6 is the communication devices. So similar to what Joe and Pam had talked about, we made sure to also include smartwatches in this and specify that. And then what we included here is our practice of what we have been doing with the language to make it even more specific in our handbook. So that way kids and parents know exactly, here's how things roll with this at the high school. This is nothing new. This is information that has been communicated in welcome back newsletters, monthly newsletters on how we navigate this on the day-to-day basis for at the high school. And then we got here page 7 with the driving privileges. Again, the driving privileges, and that's nothing that's new. However, we're adding the component to if a kid gets their license or starts driving in the month of May 1st and after, we're not charging them for a parking permit when it's less than a month. And then the other thing that we're adding for this is that in order for a kid to receive their parking permit, they have to be current on any fines or fees that are overdue. That's another way for us to help make sure that we get those taken care of. And that's another way to help with accountability with that with our kids. And then the final pieces relate to graduation that the middle school and elementary school wouldn't necessarily have, but at the high school that's a real thing. Adding some verbiage in there for transfer students, in order to be eligible to walk at graduation, they need to be enrolled and maintain enrollment by the start of the fourth quarter, which next year is March 30th, to be eligible to walk, unless they're approved by the building principal. They're still able to earn a diploma, but what we're looking to do is to honor that right to walk at graduation from Somerset High School for our kids that have been enrolled at Somerset for either their career or the majority of their senior year, trying to avoid any last late minute enrollees to, now I want to come back and maybe earn my diploma from Somerset. There is extenuating circumstances, so it gives us flexibility to work with families. But that's the one addition there. And then the other thing has to do with the community service hour requirements. And that's not a new requirement for community service. What we're doing is we're identifying a date where those need to be completed by to be eligible to walk at graduation. Because again, we're avoiding the last minute counselors and people chasing down kids for where your hours, get these hours done. It helps alleviate some of the last minute deadlines for our kids.
Questions? Can we just go to the AI piece? I'm curious, what's the plan to incorporate some use of AI in, right? Like, this isn't just eliminated, it's a real thing. So like, what's the balance there?
Yeah, it certainly is. And we had a team of teachers that attended a training down at Slate this year in the Dells back in December, where there was a lot of different topics on it. More of that, I believe, centered around like how it can help support the teacher side of things, but that is certainly something that we're looking to continue to grow in. And I know not just the high school, but middle school. Can't speak for elementary on AI, but you know, that's one thing we're looking for is good PD opportunities for our teachers to learn on how they can leverage it in a positive way for our kids too, and also teach the responsibility pieces with it. Similar to like when we went through school, it was how do you cite your sources appropriately. Like this is kind of a new up-to-date version of how you use it appropriately. Yeah. So for sure, definite plan at the moment. Not necessarily, but that's stuff we are for sure exploring on the best way to do that. So we're not just burying our heads in the sand if this thing doesn't exist.
Yeah.
No, there are a lot of different programs and things out there, and so we just have to find the one that is going to protect our kids' prep data as well, because once you start utilizing AI, it kind of goes out there, and so there's some data privacy things that we want to be sure that we have in line. And it is a learning and a comfort with staff as well. Like, staff have to be comfortable with it, as then they can teach kids on how to use it appropriately. So every district is kind of in that same spot right now. Some are a little further along than others, so there are some districts out there that are doing some pieces that we can, I think, learn from, but that's all work kind of going forward as well. It was a pretty eye-opening. I attended the Slate conference, and it was like the power of being able to like dissect a standard and see like what the essentials are and the vocab and how you could like scaffold it out as for teachers is amazing. And like as a first-year teacher who's like, I have these standards, like, holy cow, I want to do something on this topic that's going to address this. There's a lot of power there, and so it's teaching our teachers how to harness it, and then how do we teach the kids to be able to do the same thing? Because you're right, it's not going away. It's also very difficult to keep up with and to teach kids like when is AI hallucinating, because it does that too, which is what they mean for it doesn't have all the facts, right? So that's another piece. Like when we used to say, you know, you could go find the website where Elvis was still alive, right? That's what we used to teach kids, like when you're looking at website credibility or not. It's a little trickier now.
Is it currently on all the Chromebooks or blocked or?
So at the middle school, we have restricted the use of some of the AI, just because students were going out and using it to create papers. You know, it was, and so, but at the same time, like a couple teachers came back from the conference saying, hey, here's something I want to try, and so we open things up, and they're experimenting and becoming the teachers of teachers, right? It's awesome stuff, and I can't begin to wrap my head around it because I'm a dinosaur in that area. That's not one of my strengths. But you know, some teachers are exploring that, brought some stuff back. It's something that as we learn more about, it's going to become a tool that we can use. And like Sarah said, as long as student data is safe, and we're getting students to use a tool that we know that's going to be there for in the future too, and us being prepared to teach it, right, versus them being 500 years ahead of us, which they probably still be when we start using it, but we'll catch up.
Yeah.
There are some pieces out there that are just available to teachers in the district, and that's kind of like some Google permissions. One of them is called Notebook LM, where you can upload lots of different resources, and it can spit out a 20-minute podcast of like all of your information in like, and it sounds like a podcast. I did it with Ford exam training documents. Not a very exciting topic, but it was kind of fascinating to see like, you push this and like, oh, there it is, and it sounds like two people having a conversation about assessment. So that's not turned out.
All based on your sources.
All based on your sources. So whatever you tell it to do is what it's going to do, right? So it's only going to be as good as what you tell it to do. So.
And what sources you put in it.
Absolutely, yep. So like you could put like, I ended up putting in like my slide deck. I put it in there and it turned it into a podcast. So, but it was kind of a collective gasp when I showed everybody what it could do, which was kind of awesome. And for teachers, it's something you could say, make a 5-minute podcast for it. So like just something that could pique kids' interest. And you can create study guides and awesome things like that. Abby at our leadership cohort was sharing how she's going back to get her master's now, and she's using it to create study guides for the classes that she's taking. So there really is a lot of amazing power with it. It's just utilizing it appropriately.
Anything else for high school? All right, on to the virtual.
Awesome. Okay, thank you very much for amending the agenda. Brandon had a bit of a panic attack, and I said that's my fault because new in my world. So he and I went through the virtual handbook, and there's just a few changes, adding a date, because there was never a date on it before. We also added some pieces about using AI for academic integrity, very similar to what they have for the high school. The new link that is in there is the new 612 course offerings. I know Shannon had talked about the changes that we made to how we're using our virtual program now, utilizing our teachers. And so the courses change every year for what our kids get to choose, and so that's just an updated list. The 6th to 8th grade elective list is not relevant anymore. Kids will have those choices based off in the 612 course offering link, and so they'll be able to choose what electives they want. Some of our electives are part of the package that we purchased with Edgenuity, and then some of the electives cost us a little bit more, but it's fine, and kids can choose what they need. One of the biggest things that we started to see this spring with some of our students who may be falling behind on their progress, because part of it is you need to maintain progress on your virtual, is submission of blank documents to move themselves along, right? Because you can't move along unless you've submitted a doc. So we just put a couple of bullets in there that if we're putting in blank submissions or like gobbledygook submissions, nonsense word submissions, they're not going to count toward your progress. Continued submissions, then we're going to get, obviously get parents involved and talk about, okay, maybe you need to come into the building for some time to work so we can make sure that you're doing what you say you're doing. Because the point of it is learning, not just trying to click through to get through the course. So we did add those 2 bullets to it. And then the only other change that we made into the handbook this year was our local screeners, where kids may have to come into the building. Aside from the state assessments, we give the Fast Bridge assessment 6 through 8 at the middle school. And then the high school is going to be switching to Horizon, which that name is, as of like August, going to change to Progress Learning. I'll adjust it in there when it does change, but for right now it's still considered Horizon, which is an ACT-aligned standards screener for kids. So it's a performance assessment, so kids can take it 3 times a year in 9th grade, in 10th grade, and then prep for that ACT, and it spits out kind of areas of growth and gives our teachers an opportunity to utilize that. So we wanted to make sure that was reflected in here, that they may need to come in to take that. It'll be brand new to all of us next year. And then page 8 and 9, the 2 links that were struck are just no longer relevant. They're dead links from what Edgenuity used to put out. So those were the changes that we had to the virtual handbook for this year.
Thanks. I was really curious about page 4, the blank submissions. So thanks for clarifying that.
Yep, you sure can.
What
you can
happened?
You
Because
can
these
just
lines
say submit.
clearly come from something happening.
Absolutely, and we saw much higher than we've seen in the past, which we had more students enrolled too, so it happens.
All right. Any questions on virtual?
Yeah, so is that why you're switching to Horizon at the high school? Is because it's aligned with the ACT?
Yes.
And Fastbridge was not.
Correct, correct. And it's going to give us like very specific spaces where kids like, and it's aligned, so ninth graders will take a ninth grade aligned assessment to show and it'll also give our teachers data immediately instead of right now they take the practice ACT in October and they get the results in December. Well, that's 2 months. That doesn't do us any good. We take it on September 20th, we have the results September 21st, right? And then we can create target groups for intervention and all of those pieces and set some goals with kids that are relevant. Some of our students with IEPs are still going to be utilizing Fastbridge for progress monitoring because that is a much better piece for progress monitoring. But as far as like as a tier 1 screener, the Horizon is much better. Several districts in our area are using it already with some great success.
Then the other question I had was, has to do with page 4. In the, it says something about if they're completing, if they're not at 70%, it says required to attend the high school. But I'm guessing if they're a middle school student, they'd be attending the middle school, is that right?
So I can speak to a couple of examples that kind of reference why some of the language changed, because we were seeing some of that at the middle school now, because we had kids and families say, hey, this is something that fits what we want to do. And so we've contacted out the families if we're seeing that situation, saying, hey, we need to set some goals. If we don't meet those goals, then we, much like it mentions for the high school, here's our alternative. We're going to come in, we're going to support you, work here, get you back on track, and try to be part of that too. So we didn't ever get to that point this year, but we did work with families to kind of move it along. Hey, and most families weren't aware of where their students were, and so that was that communication piece. And then we saw some of them move, and we saw some of them stay there. But we began utilizing that because we have more kids that are using it in families, and so we're learning as we go. And it'll mirror similar to what it reads for the high school, I guess, when it occurs.
I can certainly add on there, the student will be required to attend the high school or middle school until the grade is set. I can add that.
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
So there were 2 places. It says, it's the same page. It starts with required to attend the high school. I think you just want to add or middle school. Yep. And then a little bit below that says return to the high school.
Yep, got it.
I
Or
think
middle school, yeah.
Thank you.
Middle school also.
Thanks for catching
Thank
that.
you.
For sure.
Anything else for the virtual handbook? All right, on the all school.
And the all school one, Trent and Joe and I went over it. We made so many changes last year and we went over it again, and really the only change is the change of the date. We really didn't have any other changes.
Questions on the all school?
Not right now.
Well, I appreciate the amendments. These are all here, now they're all together. Everybody's got 2 weeks. These will come back for approval in 2 weeks. If you have questions, please reach out to this team in the meantime. Thank you very much. All right, on to number 6, annual reading report. Mindy, I'll just say per policy 2131.01, we do have to obtain this report out every year. So with that, I'll pass it to you.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. So yes, I am here to give the reading report per policy 2131.01. So I created a slide presentation. Oh man, let's see if I can do this. Just for it to look a little prettier as I read through the slides. So this is part of, like I mentioned, policy 2131.01, reading instructional goals in kindergarten assessment. I also included some of the Act 20 updates as well. So I'll jump right into it. So as part of Wisconsin Reads Act 20, all teachers of reading, pre-K through 3rd grade, are required to complete a literacy program on the fundamentals of teaching reading. We have completed this requirement through Tools for Reading, Top 10 Teaching Tools program. All teachers have completed this program and we are officially certified in the tools. Another accomplishment in 2025 was that our district completed the Elementary and Secondary Education Act Universal Compliance Monitoring Audit. This included demonstrating compliance in protocols for public reporting, Title I family engagement, etc. We are happy to report that we passed our audit with no issues. An early remediation plan is also a requirement of Act 20. This has been written by our school personnel and will be linked to the district website. We officially implemented Act 20, the official implementation of Act 20 screening assessments began in January 2025 as required by state policy, but SES began using it in the fall of 2024. This gave our elementary school staff and assessment team the opportunity to plan, discuss, and reflect on the system before it became law. And boy, did we do that. A few paper cuts along the way too. All students from pre-K to 3rd grade participate in universal literacy assessment for reading readiness. Students are assessed using the state-selected literacy screener, Ames Web Plus. The screener includes assessment in science-based early reading foundational skills. Staff at the elementary school were successful in implementation of the new system and participated in thoughtful and meaningful conversations on how to support students in literacy, including the development and implementation of the personal reading plans. After completing our first official round of assessments, we had 114 students qualify for personal reading plans, and by the spring, we had 36 of those students who met their reading goals and were able to exit their reading plans. 11 students in 3rd grade that also had the personal reading plans were proficient on the Wisconsin Forward exam, and 6 of those students were able to exit their reading plans by reaching proficiency and reaching their reading goal reaching proficiency on the Forward exam and reaching their reading goal on their personal reading plan. Another 4 students in 4th grade, so on that, or 3rd grade on that same list, were within 5 points of meeting expectations on the Forward exam, excuse me. So that's exciting stuff. And then at the more of the middle school, high school level. So while our primary levels through 5th grade continue to master our board approved and Wisconsin DPI approved high quality instruction literacy resource, Savvis MyView, our secondary level ELA educators continue to use StudySync as the literacy resource for instruction. Novel studies further support literacy work through middle school and high school. Weekly collaborative department meetings continue to allow teachers to receive support with the use of materials and impactful instructional practices. Teachers use the resources for close readings of mentor text, vocabulary development, and assessment practice. Collaborative teams continue to focus on priority standards, interventions, and designing formative and summative assessments aligned to Wisconsin state standards while fostering a love of literacy. Scores from the Forward exam, ACT, and pre-ACT state assessments will be available to districts. Teachers and administrators will be examining and discussing the results of these assessments within collaborative teams to ensure best practices continue to be provided for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. What questions does the board have?
Well, I have a couple questions, Mindy, and one of them probably is out of your control. I was surprised to hear that part about you had to read a book, do a book study to qualify for the Act 20, because to get a teaching license in Wisconsin, you're required to have that training already. That seems redundant to me. Do you know anything about that?
I don't. I just know that we are required to have
We're required to be
completed-
trained with science of reading. So
Yeah.
that's a separate piece than just having like a
Phonics,
reading methods and
because
phonics.
Yeah.
So the top 10 tools are phonics and like all of the pieces, both sides of what's called Scarborough's rope, which has both sides of literacy in it. And so our teachers had to go through that piece to say that they understand the full scope of the science of reading.
And then the other thing you said quick, and I might have misunderstood it when you were going through it. I thought I heard you say that you had kids who were proficient in reading on the Wisconsin Forward exam, but didn't complete their reading plan?
So yes.
How can you be proficient but not complete?
Well, and that's something that we are hoping to discuss. So right now, the reading plans are not, it's more practice, if you will, for us, because they're not, what do I wanna say, required as of yet, cause we still have to write policy on that.
27.
Right, so we are, if I go off of kind of what we have locally talked about, that is kind of, so their reading goal is tied to their intervention. So their intervention still, they haven't reached their intervention goal, but they're proficient on the forward exam. So that is a conversation that I do want to have with all of our reading assessment, team, to be able to say, okay, what makes the most sense professionally speaking for our students that are in exactly that situation, so.
So right now, do you know the answer to, are they still going to receive an intervention if they are proficient?
So right now, it's the end of the school year, so yes, but, I guess I would say, yes, they would continue intervention, however, I would like to, again, have our team meet and decide what does make the most sense, because proficient on the forward exam certainly would give an indication that they're good, but also, what is it, I also want to kind of dive a little deeper into the intervention of, okay, so what are we missing? Is there something that we still need to iron out? Or do we just need to have the conversation of, motivation for the student, whatever that conversation may be, beyond just the data that we see.
Okay, thank you.
So you could set a different bar and not just use the forward exam, but set a different bar actually, right?
Yes,
Actually?
yes, and.
Say, okay,
Yes,
forward
and. So
exam,
for-
you're
yeah.
good, but we want you a little bit higher, so our bar is here.
Yes, we could do that. So for third grade is unique in that they have the forward exam piece tied to their reading plan, which is separate from the other grades, because third grade is the first year that they take the forward exam. So they kind of have to have both components. So the intervention goal, have they met that, and then are they proficient on the forward exam? So those two pieces have to come together. We have some local say in that intervention piece. So if the student is proficient on the forward exam, but isn't, proficient, if you will, on their intervention, what are we missing? We have to have a conversation on what does that look like in the classroom? What are we missing? What does the student need? Or is it, a matter of motivation or just a conversation with that student? That's, more unique to each individual student, so.
Great.
We get the opportunity over the next, because we'll talk about policy here shortly.
Yeah.
We get the opportunity to also decide what that exit criteria can look like. Third grade is the one grade that it is fairly specific, but on other grade levels, we get the opportunity to decide. But having only done it for like 1 year, we want to make sure that we're gonna do it right, so that we're not, inadvertently saying, oh, look, this first grader met it, but then we're right back. Like, we have to get them a personal reading plan in third grade again, because then something would be off. So we want to give ourselves just a little bit of time, which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
awesome.
Other questions? All right, thanks for your presentation.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Item number 7, the proposed adoption of speech and AP Human Geography textbooks.
Okay.
And just a reminder, so this course was approved a couple of months ago as part of our AP.
Both courses were approved
Yep.
to bring in district in December? Was it
And then-
December? I think it was December.
Yeah, and as part of that process, because they're AP, we are limited, we have to adopt the curriculum, and you'll talk about some of that?
I will.
Perfect.
To adopt a resource based on their curriculum. That was one of the big differences we talked about with the leadership group. So I will just start sending these around if you guys want to look at them. So the 2 books that we're looking to seek approval on tonight, the first one is Human Geography for the AP course. It's a second edition of the book. And this will meet the requirements to prepare our kids adequately for our AP Human Geography course that will be a new course in the fall. And then the second book that I will send around is The Art of Public Speaking, which will support the work that is going to happen with the fact that we are going to now be teaching speech communications at the high school. So our kids can teach speech or take speech at the high school without having to go to Northwood Tech or something like that. We can bring it in-house. And so I'll talk about both of these, and then happy to answer any questions that I can. So in looking at, we'll talk about the AP Human Geography first. It is directly aligned with the College Board. okay, number one. Like the College Board, when you adopt an AP course, it gives you all the standards that you must hit. It is really a class that is going to prepare you to take a test so that you can hopefully pass the test and earn yourself some college credit while in high school. And so it is directly aligned with their curriculum framework, so big difference. This is the resource that we're going to use to address the AP curriculum that's already laid out. Okay? It does have very clear explanations. I did work with, Cody Wallen is going to be the teacher of this course. He's the one that brought it forward. He is very familiar with this publisher already. He uses the same publisher for AP Human Geography. And so he knows, and he has had a whole lot of success with AP Government, not AP Human Geography. He's had a whole lot of success with AP Government utilizing this. He's familiar with how the textbook's laid out, how the assessments work, and he has become a fairly good predictor of who will have success on that AP exam. And so he is a huge proponent of this piece. It includes all the practice questions that a student is going to need. It can individualize skills as needed, and it gives him test-taking strategies to go over with the kids as well. Kind of the awesome part about this class, which is when we brought it down, like when we brought it forward, is it's going to be offered to all kids at the high school, not just juniors and seniors. So if you have some freshmen and sophomores that would like to challenge themselves at a younger age, this class is open to that. And I'm pretty happy to say, like, we have 74 kids that have requested this course. And so that's exciting because that's 3 sections of an AP course that we've got some freshmen, sophomores, and juniors and seniors that they want to challenge themselves.
How long is the course? A full year?
It's a full year course, and then they'll take their AP exam in May. Yep.
Those 74, can that be accomplished?
It can be.
Okay.
And we have, and yeah, Trent and I have been working on the schedule in order to make sure that it can happen. Just kind of cost-wise, AP courses, you know, their books are heavy and all the things. And so the range is, depending on how long of a contract that we sign, it ranges, like if I just do a 1-year contract, it's gonna cost me $155, like per student access. But if I go to like a 5 or a 6-year, the rate only goes up by like $10 or $15, and it lasts me for 5 or 6 years. So I'm gonna look at my budget and see what I can fit in. So it'll range on that. All doable within the budget. The plan right now is to do 30 hard books in the classroom, and then enough electronic seats so that the kids have access, like on their Chromebook, that needed, so that Cody would have enough in the classroom to be able to do that, and then the kids would have access kind of anywhere.
So if it's open to all kids, I think we require 3 years of social studies to graduate. Is this course in lieu of or an elective?
Elective.
Elective.
So it would be an
It's
extra.
not, it's not replacing American history or sociology or civics or anything like that. It's a,
Yep.
social studies elective.
Any other questions about AP Human Geography? Okay, let me know if you do.
Actually, I had a couple questions.
Sure.
These titles of publishers are in your memo, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, yep, it's all right in the memo. So you could,
Yep.
you can look, if you look online for AP Human Geography, you're going to find the first edition on Amazon. You can't get the second edition on Amazon, you get the second edition from the publisher. Like, they don't have it out there for purchase, except through the publisher, so.
And then
You know what, oh, I'm sorry.
And you're not looking for approval tonight?
No, I've been looking for approval
You don't have to-
Regular session.
at the regular session. Yep, so if you have questions in the meantime, let me know. Thank you.
So this is the latest version, right? 2025?
Yep, that's the second
All right.
edition, yep.
Are there digital copies that are easier to review?
They do not allow digital copy, no, even the preview that I have to, like, password and access to, it's like part of the chapter. You don't get the whole thing, it's the hard copy. So if you really wanna come and dig into it, feel free to visit my office at any point in time. I'll make you a cup of coffee and you can sit and read about AP Human Geography. But yeah, I don't have any ability to send online because the online is really, and there isn't even like well, I'll talk about it with speech, there's not even like a physical like teacher edition. It's all done online and teachers have access to it that way. It's really the way that we work.
Like once you buy access to a portal, essentially?
Absolutely, yep.
So we have purchased it already?
No,
No.
because
You know what's new in this version versus older editions?
No, I'm sorry, I do not know. I haven't read the whole book.
In the past, it's just updated, information. Usually it's not anything big in the content. It's usually just.
The only big changes would come is if AP changes what their standards are. And so this is a brand new course to us, so we're gonna go with the most recent book.
Is this course pretty typical in neighboring districts?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, this was brought to us, I mean, Cody wanted to take it on and give an opportunity for kids to challenge themselves at an earlier level. Do you know the
I'd say
answer?
that was a great summary, because
Yeah.
one of the biggest purposes for us to bring this here was to offer AP level class that our 9th and 10th graders could access. It's geared for 9th and 10th graders. We're opening it for 11th and 12th graders who want to challenge themselves also and earn potential AP credits as well.
Something different for us.
Yeah, it helps
Great.
broaden, and hopefully anytime we can add AP classes or CIS dual enrollment classes into our offerings, that helps strengthen the resumes for our kids when they leave here and their options, and helps make us attractive too.
Steve, any more questions?
Not right now.
I just have one more. Who, and you may have said this and I missed it, when it comes to an AP course, who controls or who gives the direction on curriculum, books? Where's that
The
come
College
from?
Board. College Board does, AP.
Okay.
AP does. We don't craft the course, we don't create the course or write the standards for it, AP does that.
But they would provide different courses or various courses, it wouldn't just be this one, right?
Well, we also offer AP Government, which has its own set of standards that AP requires. We have AP Biology that we offer every other year, we have AP Chemistry that we offer every other year. Did I forget any for right now, because we're changing
AP Lang,
AP Lang, oh yeah, yep, so.
we had AP Stats, what else? AP Art.
Right, AP Art is a very different
Yeah.
format as well, because it's production.
But when it comes to, when it comes to AP, if we're gonna offer it,
Yep.
we have to use what they say. We don't have
Absolutely.
the option to go pick from 10 publishers.
No, I mean, there is another AP book out there that is AP Human
Yeah.
Geography. It's still going to go with the same standards, it's still going to go against the same AP, it has to be a
The
curriculum
standard
that's
is-
going to match the standards.
Okay.
Because if you don't choose a resource that supports that, your kids are not going to be able to be successful on the exam, which is really
Okay.
what they're taking the class for.
Okay.
And let me just correct my numbers for you, because I gave you numbers for the speech class. This is gonna be approximately $13,000 for the 75 online licenses and the 30 hard books. So I do have that quote, so that's approximately what it will be.
Is it a factor to consider bias in a curriculum and to evaluate? And are there how many options were looked at? Curious.
So there were 2 different options. I don't have the other name that Cody looked at. When someone's looking at bias in, say, a human geography book, they're looking to make sure everybody's equally represented, is really what it is, because it's about the entire world. And we have to put some faith, particularly in this situation, which the College Board is going to have a resource and a curriculum out there that is going to be unbiased.
Yeah, there's an article about the Caledonia, Michigan School Board denying it they thought it was too biased in one, I don't even know which direction or what references, but it's just an interesting reference, maybe we'll look into between now and the next meeting.
I saw that same article out there.
Yeah.
And there
I'm
was no
sure there's
detail, there were no
always some,
details,
right?
there were no details to it.
Right.
There weren't much for details on there. So.
Yes, fascinating, thank you.
Yep.
Speech.
Speech. So yay, we have a teacher who passed the praxis exam, so can fully be licensed to teach speech at the high school. And so the book that he is proposing and that I fully support is The Art of Public Speaking by Stephen Lucas, which is going around. It is a very straightforward, how do you do public speaking? It's extremely straightforward. Kind of the bigger benefit of this one is eventually we want to turn this class into a college in the schools course, okay? And so right now this is one of the 3 accepted textbooks that the U of M has for it, that they would say, yes, you can use this book as a resource. And so Corey Lindenberg, who's going to be teaching the course, he's already a CIS teacher, So we're gonna try to get him on the wait list as soon as possible for the speech course, because there is a wait list to see. There are other universities out there that offer college in the schools type opportunities for our kids, so if the U of M wait list gets to be too long, we can certainly, look somewhere else. But as he reviewed the 3 different ones that the U of M gives as options, he felt like this one was the least biased, that it had just kind of the most straightforward of, here's what to do, here's how to be successful with that piece. And so this one, we would have the books for students, which I think 30 is what we decided on for that, and then we have online licenses then for the kids as well. So, and that's the one that's gonna range depending on how many years we choose to purchase, from 155 to 173. So the more we purchase, the better the deal.
Questions?
This one's for the U of M, or this one's part of the U of M.
So it's one of the 3, so the U of M has 3 approved books. Of the 3, this is the one that we felt was
So when we do
gonna
it-
meet our needs the best. Yep.
When and if he does get that approval, then.
Then we don't have to change the book.
Got it.
We already have it.
I have a question. Do
Sure.
these books stay in the classroom or do they go home with kids or I was
So because kids would have like online access on their computer, they wouldn't necessarily need to take them. But if they needed to, we could. I mean, they'll all get, checked into the library and they'll go through Destiny and that sort of thing. So if a kid did need to take it home for some reason. Right now, with the number of students we have in the speech course, every kid could take the textbook back and forth. For AP Human Geography, we're gonna try it to see if we can get by with just the 30 set because it's pricier.
Right.
And then if that doesn't work, then we'll make an adjustment going forward. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
If you have any questions over the next couple of weeks, please feel free to reach out. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah. So number 7 will come back for action in 2
On the
weeks.
16th. Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep, thank you.
Number 8. Adoption of new policy per Act 20.
Okay, that's me too. Awesome, hang tight. Let me get my next pile of papers out. All right, so one of the pieces of the requirements of Act 20 is that we have to have a 3rd grade promotion and retention policy for at-risk students. So we, as Mindy, Pam, and I, who are taking the Neola suggestions, which were linked in there, and hopefully you guys had an opportunity to look at. We have to look at reading achievement criteria, and we have to have this policy adopted by July 1st of 2025. But it does not have to go into effect until September 1st of 2027. And we are recommending that we don't put it in effect until September 1st of 2027. So that we have the opportunity to develop our processes, our exit criteria, so that we don't inadvertently, like I was sharing earlier, dismiss exit a 1st grader from a reading plan, and then, oh my goodness, halfway through 2nd grade or the beginning of 3rd grade, we're finding ourselves in the same spot with them. So we want to give ourselves and our staff the time to be able to develop the exit criteria, adjust it as needed, and really kind of hone in how we're working with those personal reading plans to grow kids. Okay? When we looked at the policy options, number 1, please if you have support of that, to let us have until September 1 of 2027 so that we can develop that. And then where it says on, where we get to select on the 2nd page of, what would require movement on or off, or what discussions would take place. Right now, we are comfortable selecting B and H. We don't want to select too many of those options because we don't want to pin ourselves in not knowing how our process might shake out. But we will certainly, as we get closer to September of 2027, bring it back for revision once we know what our exit process is going to be, what we have found that's worked when we're talking with parents about these plans. Right now, it's just so new to everybody that we're just really trying to feel our way through the process. So that's what we would like for approval at the next board meeting.
And we talked about it at our policy committee meeting as well. And according to our Neola representative, this is what all the school districts are doing.
Yes.
Is adopting the policy, but using the September 1st, 2027 implementation date.
Correct. Yep. Thank you.
I did have a question, and it doesn't have anything to do with the policy, because the
Okay.
policy is specific to grade 3.
Correct.
but it talked about, an intensive, summer program.
Correct.
And I was wondering, you know, I know we do in summer school, we have the day camp
Mhm.
thing for kids
Yes.
who are, who need some more academic support.
Mhm.
But should we look at, I don't even know if it's possible to require an intensive summer reading program for kids who need it?
So it has to be offered. Like, we can't make them, it has to
Not
be.
even in third grade, it's not part of the state law?
No, it has to, it's offered, it's not mandatory. So we will create plans that we will invite, kind of, I don't see it changing some of what we do already, because we already do invite. That is what we have done for years and years, and so, but you cannot require. That's.
And also, for what it's worth, Lori, they do have a small clause in Act 20 that may help a little bit, because in fourth grade, if they haven't met the goal of their reading plan in third grade, they still need to be in an intervention and be progress monitored. So that could at least, I mean, we don't just wipe our hands of helping them, but yeah. But at least that piece of it, helps with the offer versus
I was hoping for some incentive.
Yes,
For
yes.
kids to partake in a reading program if they need it.
Oh,
to-
yes, absolutely.
Because it's just so much easier you can catch up a kid in kindergarten. It's
Yes.
much
Correct.
more difficult to catch up a kid in third grade.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. Yeah, so it can't be mandatory, but it can be offered, and then if it's offered and they aren't able to attend or whatever the circumstances, at least we know that they will have an intervention and progress monitoring in fourth grade.
And the policy says something about late in the school term, if they begin third grade in our district late in the school term, but there's no definition of what that is.
That's fun. That's where the grade comes in, right? Like, as you try to, so I guess if they come in late in the school year and they are not proficient on the Ford exam, they don't technically count because they're not considered a full academic year after. So in order for a student to count on our proficiency levels on the Ford exam, they have to be what's considered full academic year, which is more than 90 days. More than 90 days. So I guess I would venture to say, if they come to us in March, that's not going to count for us. They come to us in October,
So
yes.
before 90 days.
It's gotta be 90 days, in order for them to be considered full academic year. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on the policy? Okay, so this policy will come back in 2 weeks as it is, presented on this. If anything comes up in the meantime, please reach out so we can make an adjustment and it can be accurate. Otherwise, this is what we will vote on in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.
Number 9, the Neola technical corrections. Lori or Danny, is there anything you guys want to speak about?
Just reminding everybody that there was 2 policies on there that talked about background checks. They were crossed out in red, but what they're doing is just cleaning up, and for volunteers, that was stripped out of 2 policies that were in employee policies, I would say, and now it's just all being, that volunteer piece is moving to the volunteer policy, so it's just in one spot. And we did check that box for background checks for volunteers, so that'll be coming up to board.
But no, these are all technical corrections.
There's no approval?
There is no.
No, I'm just saying, but there was 2 policies in here that had red crossed out with employees receiving
And so
background checks.
I'm sorry,
volunteers, not employees, volunteers.
We have another policy that will be coming up in July.
So the strike in these does not need approval
Right,
because it'll come to the board in a new policy or a different policy.
yes, the volunteer
So
policy.
these policies are just, like commas and nothing that changes the language, the intent of the language.
Okay. Any discussion or comments on any of these? Anyone saw? Okay, very good. Number 10, CESA review of business service operations. I sent today everyone, thanks Mindy,
Thank you, Mindy.
sent everyone a copy of the report from CESA I just got this morning. They were here last week. They did a review of job descriptions, they did interviews, they spent an entire day here in the office. Obviously, I don't anticipate taking any action on this tonight, but I think it's a really good starting spot of high level what's going on. You know, and I haven't even had a chance to read the full thing. It's 34, 35 pages. The one thing I did see is the recommendation to keep that business services manager in-house. So that reaffirmed that we made the right decision to post. That position's still open till the end of the week. But I would encourage all of you to read through that. You know, as we work with a new superintendent, I think this is a great framework to figure out how do we staff. Is there an opportunity to make some changes? So, any initial comments from anyone after looking at that?
I thought the report was very well done, very thorough. She has a lot of suggestions in there for how we can improve and be more efficient. And I thought it was extremely interesting, looking at the, comparison of Somerset to the other school districts in Wisconsin that were our size. So I think there's some things we can work on to make improvements in our business department.
Great. Anything else? So my thoughts were, I want to present this to our new superintendent tomorrow. And then, you know, kind of give him some direction that I think our first work session in July would be a great topic. That gives him a month to dive into this. Hopefully we have that position filled.
Well, do we want to have it filled? How many applicants do we have so far? Do you know, Alicia?
There were three.
There were three last.
Three at last.
There's still three. There's still three.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, when we had discussed posting it, we said something about keeping it open until filled. No, I'm hoping that our new superintendent can be the one to make a decision.
I'm with you 100%. He did want to be involved.
Yes.
So I can reach out tomorrow and see, you know, what level of involvement can he do. He's not an employee here yet. So let me figure that out. But I mean, at the very least, I'd like to have this back on the agenda as a topic in July work session. And I'd like to hear from him kind of what the plan is. But I'll get you more information on that process, especially as we near the deadline on Friday and what the next step is. I'll keep all of you in the loop. What other discussion?
He said something about wanting to be a part of that selection. And we talked about how that was going to look, you know, if we had to fill it in the meantime with CISA or something. So maybe see where he's at with that. Again, I don't want to fill without him, but also know we can't have nobody.
Yep.
July 1st.
Okay, I'll check in with him tomorrow. We'll let Friday come, and then we'll check in again, and I'll give you all an update on what the next step is before we do anything.
That chart I was referring to is in the appendix. I think it's appendix 2, I believe.
Yeah.
So on about page 16 or so.
Okay, this will come back in July. In the meantime, obviously dig through this report and bring any points forward that are valuable to you. Number 11, audio video equipment in the boardroom. I'll just talk real quick and then I can kind of pass it to Danny. Danny brought this up after our last meeting. She received some information from people that they have a hard time hearing our audio in here. I've never heard that complaint. But if people are struggling, obviously it's something we should talk about. I did have a conversation with Dr. Donnelly. She said this was a topic from the past, and she recognizes the fact that this equipment is probably seeing its end of life age. Pricing, she did do some research on pricing, and we're in like the $20,000 to $30,000 range to replace this stuff.
Just for this room?
Yeah, so the YouTube mics. So that's why it was put on the back burner. We had a superintendent search. We had some other dollar, high dollar costs, and this just wasn't a priority. But I want it out there. Danny, anything you
I
want to
thought there
talk
was
about?
a $3,000 option that would fix something that would catch it together for a while. I know, I'm trying to find.
That just does it every time.
Does it?
It seems.
Can't do that on live stream.
So I think it's certain people that the mic doesn't pick up, specifically Danny and
Lori.
It's because of the mics being where they are, like, we
Corey.
wouldn't necessarily hear Steve very well unless he speaks up really loud. I tend to be quiet
Steve's actually-
sometimes too, and that's an issue.
Steve's heard well, Shannon has heard well, Matt's heard well. You can be quiet. Lori, I could not hear it all the last meeting. Corey, not at all. Myself, not at all. It was just like, it was dead air. It was- You could see me talking and there was absolutely nothing.
At home, when I watch meetings, if I connect it to my speakers, separate speakers, not on the computer, I can hear it, it's clear as day.
It must be a surround sound system.
We need to get an amp.
Watch the last meeting.
Well, I think it's definitely an issue. And again, kind of like our last topic, we have a new superintendent coming. I met with him last week and I brought that concern up, about what are your thoughts on the boardroom? And, ensuring people can hear. So, if we want to bring it back in July, again, it's just another expense. But we can definitely look at quotes. I'd like to have his input on what his vision is. If you'd like it back, we definitely can, as long as we're okay till then.
Sure. I just want to point out that we do use it for record keeping too. It's-
well, we should.
I think also, if you plug in earbuds, you can hear it really well, too. Alicia, can you address that?
That's typically all I do is in earbuds, so when I go back and I'm linking, hyperlinks to direct spots in the videos, I'm in earbuds and,
Do you have trouble hearing me or?
I think it's okay. I think you can hear spots that you can't hear as well, because the equipment needs to get updated. Some of the mics are only working at a certain percentage, so, but it's fine it's better with earbuds, yes.
So I don't know how it works fully. I wonder, so we have our referendum dollars that have been for construction projects. Renovations, this to me would be some type of renovation that, when we have money left over from, we had the 22.9 million, there is money. If we have anything left, is that something we could look at outfitting this room? That's what we talked about last time. And then we did some other things, but that was something that was brought up the last time.
But I don't think you can if that particular building was not included in the referendum language.
I mean, we're doing work to the district. I don't know. I'll talk
Do you want to check?
Yeah, let me talk to Dave and just see how this could kind of be, if it could be part of it. Because we did a whole parking lot out there with the last referendum that wasn't part of the.
High school, and the high school was part of the referendum. High school updates in middle school.
The district is part of the referendum.
Go for it.
I mean, yeah, I don't know, I mean,
I don't know. if
when
you can.
we're trying to,
Check with Dave.
yeah.
If he thinks it's gonna fall in there, maybe check with, the contractor and see if we can get some bids, so we at least
Well, we
have
could-
some numbers.
Yeah, we could get it from
Guy was
people
already
who already
working.
priced it, the first time, to give that update for the 20,000, whatever it is.
I would like a
We
couple
could use
bids.
the,
Or even like, just taking a shot in the dark and calling some technology companies that do these for large corporations. They gotta be throwing 5-year-old systems away all the time that donate to the school.
I don't want a 5-year-old system, I'm sorry.
So it's what,
I,
20?
if we're doing this, we go, I'd tell you so, we're good. Let me talk to
Yep.
Dave and.
Okay.
see
Spent
what
a
we
lot
can
on our
do.
superintendent, we had to pinch pennies.
All right, so we won't bring this back. Obviously, it's a known item. We're all kind of in the loop. Bruce, if you have good news for us, then we'll put it on the agenda.
Yep,
Otherwise, let's let our new superintendent get established, and then he's aware. let's see what his thoughts are, if we can't use referendum dollars. It's a known issue, let's all speak a little louder, because we know it, if we can, and we'll man it on until we can get better.
I'd like curved tables so we have better eye contact.
You can build names.
I'll do it. Cut it out of a tree.
They're expensive. It's ridiculous. We talked about that stuff the last day.
Yeah.
We outfit the whole room with chairs and move the whole room to
Back there.
that
Was it- I remember, yeah.
topic. So that was part of this whole
And whether,
thought. And it was
Expensive.
well, and we want to put our money where the kids are.
Right.
definitely, so we'll be talking about that.
Okay, well, we know it's a problem. Bruce, you'll get further. Okay. Number 12, policy 0166. I'll be really quick on this. I really just wanted this on here as we talk about transparency and individual board members wanting topics on the agenda. I went through 0166. Again, if an individual board member wants something brought to an agenda, if someone seconds it, we're all good. It will be here. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of kind of how I'll operate that. I'm not going to sweep anything under the rug. I'll bring it forward as quick as we can. My only suggestion would be if somebody brings up a topic, I think the whole board should have an opportunity to weigh in on, is this something that we want to push further into, or is it not a priority for us as a board in general? So what I would like to do, if someone brings something up, we put it on the next agenda, and essentially we talk about an overview. This policy, whatever it is, was brought forward. We can have some discussion around it, but we don't introduce past policies, we don't introduce, kind of the deep dive into it until the board decides what the direction is. The board says, yep, let's move forward. Then that next meeting, we bring attachments, we bring all of the stuff. Everyone has had 2 weeks to dig in and read, and then it would come back to a third meeting for kind of that final decision. It really would just lay out a nice framework. Not to throw you under the bus, but today, like at 4:30, you sent out that policy. And that's good stuff, but I would want to make sure I have an opportunity to read through that. So that would be my only rationale for adding in that essentially one extra time on an agenda.
So I think, did we kind of talk about this when we wanted to have an agenda item for board comments? I mean, that's what the purpose of that would have been.
Yeah, I'm with you. Then I would say we don't have the attachments. So because there's also the question of when things go to Alicia, a policy didn't get linked or a document didn't get linked. This would eliminate that confusion. This would just be a general discussion of the policy. And then the next meeting, all of the supporting documents would be there.
Would this kind of help too, help us minimize any possible violations for open meeting laws, because then we kind of start talking about why we want it on or why we want it as part of like emails or a whole write-up of why yes or why no.
Yeah, it would eliminate all of the email conversation. It would put us all on notice in a public meeting, this topic we want to talk about. And then we still have 2 more meetings that we talk about. I mean, it's not cutting anything short, it's really adding an extra step. So that's my thought.
So the initial proposal would still be via email?
Yeah, to me,
Yes.
yep. And then somebody says second, I'm gonna throw it on there.
Okay.
But again, we're not gonna worry about attachments, we're not gonna worry about any of the supporting documents. It's just gonna be a conversation right here. And then if the board says, yep, let's look further, then that next meeting, we add all the attachments, we add all the documentation, and then it comes back to a third.
Because I did not know what you were wanting to talk about tonight, I thought it was because when we changed our procedure, we failed to come back and amend the agenda policy.
Oh.
So we should include this when we have a first reading in July and make the necessary correction to this agenda so it reflects what we're doing.
Okay.
To the policy, yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
So that'll be my procedure. Again, if this doesn't work, we'll do something different. That's all I have for that. Number 13, 6320 purchasing. Okay.
Yep, that's me. Just doing some thinking on transparency to the public and looking past how this policy, 6320 was 5 years ago, is different than a lot different than how it looks now. I like how it looked in the past, 5 years ago. And that's what I sent out this afternoon at 4 o'clock. Similar to how New Richmond does it, how Osceola does it. It's basically purchases, even though they have already been basically kind of pre-approved in the budget for that year, still would require multiple bids and board approval at a certain dollar amount. Osceola and New Richmond were at 10, or 15 was at New Richmond. I would settle on 15. I think that really helps with transparency in a time when budgets are tight. And should we want to talk about a referendum in the future, I think that the public would be happy with this step on transparency, and that shows that the board is working towards that.
So right now, our bids are required when it is 25,000 or more. So you're recommending that we lower it? Okay, we changed it a few years ago to 25,000 just because the prices of everything had gone up so much, and it was considered, it takes a lot of time for our staff to go out for bids.
Can I just provide a bit of context?
Yes.
So I'm learning through the IT world right now with the, so like the TV, the interactive TVs that we have in the classrooms as smart boards are failing. We can get, up to 8 of them at that $25,000 price at a company that we trust, that we've worked with, without having to go out to RFP for that. If you drop it to 10,000, it will drastically reduce the amount we can purchase without having to go out and seek bids from companies that we maybe don't have a relationship with and that sort of thing. That's just one example of something that I've learned this year as I've been working with our IT department in that way, is that it has allowed them to be able to continue the relationship with companies that are good support, that we get a good product from, without having to go out again and again and again, because it does take work. So that's where the $25,000, it has provided us with necessary flexibility in being able to pick up some of those pieces instead of having to take everything out for
How about
RFP.
something like two bids at 15? Would that be doable?
I mean, I have to bring it back to them. It's just, again, it's the time piece and trying to make sure we can get things here,
It's a
on
huge
time.
process.
It is a lot, because they have to be sealed, and then you open them all at the same time, and all of that. So, we've really, they've worked really hard with the IT crew to be able to say, okay, we know exactly kind of how much we can spend in order to then replace the technology that we know after so long does fail. And so that would, kind of delay the process in some way, shape, or form. But they're a group that is really good about the budget, and it comes right down to it, and we know exactly what we can spend in order to be within that $25,000. So that may have been one of the reasons it was raised to 25 at that point, because IT, it wasn't the area I oversaw at that point, but we've talked about that multiple times over the course of this past year.
Does this have anything to do with construction projects at all, or would this impact construction?
I believe that's why this was
That's why-
changed in the first place.
Yeah, the
That's why it went to
$250,000
$250
on
now. We could have changed, I think I saw in the Richmond one, they have a different section for construction that kind of pulls it out of it, and that's it, and maybe that's something we could do. But that's why this changed originally, because 5 years or whatever, when we sat through, we talked about the committee would have room to approve changes up to 250,000 for those construction projects. And I remember talking about changing it after, and I guess we didn't. I'd be all for changing it after this building is done and lowering that back down.
Lowering what?
The 250,000.
Okay, that's in a whole different section. That's under general provisions.
Right,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean,
Same policy, though, right?
But
yeah,
that's
it's the
not-
same policy.
But that's not what you're talking about, are you? Or are you gonna
You're
talk
talking
about
about
that?
that.
I would actually like to eliminate the 250,000, because that's a big chunk of change that
And I'm saying the reason that number's in there is
Because of
for
the
the
building.
construction projects.
And-
So
and
that-
change orders.
So that, yes, so that they could approve changes, didn't have to come to the board every time there was a $10,000 change to the project. Or 50, and it was just based on.
'Cause that halts the whole project.
Yep, so they can move quickly and continue through the construction process. And we were, we're in on all these, we see them every week meeting, what gets spent and changed and everything. So I think that's why that 250 was put in there. And again, I'm all for pulling that back to a more realistic number once this project's done, or we'd have to add a section about construction like enrichments, which would be fine with me too. Keep it at 25,000, I agree with the 25, just like how expensive things are. And I think 25 is before we go to RFP, to me is pretty standard, or I guess, we're a little higher than others, but it's a lot of work, so I'd rather have people doing other things.
And then, so you're saying that you like the policy that we used to have better?
Yeah.
In the policy that we used to have, there's no notification to the board required at all.
So I like it better than it is now, but I like Richmond's policy the best. Does that clarify that?
Yes.
So at the time this happened, we sat on and interviewed like Blue Ribbon when they got hired, and we got those RFPs, because that was changing, that was one of the things, I remember that was right at the beginning of this. And that was a process, because we interviewed, I don't know if you were, you probably were not, I don't know if you were part of those interviews. I was in those interviews with Dave and Mark, and so that was a lengthy process when they came in. Granted, that was like 60,000, that was a lot bigger number. So I agree with that. I was just saying for every $10,000 purchase, or 15 even, that would be a lot of time and effort for as we're looking at some business operations review, I think that would also have to kind of factor in the things that are given.
And you might end up with a little bit that's something different than what we're using currently that wouldn't coexist very well. Now you end up going with a different company that's got a different product for access to the buildings, and then now you get different hardware and different doors. It's not gonna work well. Same thing could happen with the electronics, IT stuff, so.
We're even fixing things here.
Right.
So, at $10,000, we do request that it is our policy that they get a quote. Is that not enough?
It's just not approved by the board.
I would like that.
Neither are the bids.
I would like that put back in. I would like to see I know we see the referendum stuff. the
We
buildings.
approve the bills, right, the board bills, which have. all
After
those
they're
in it.
spent, after the money's gone out.
So at $10,000, we're required to get at least 2 quotes. And over 25,000, or at 25,000, we're requiring that we get competitive bids. So with the $10,000 there and the 25,000, I think it's all right.
Corey, Steve? I'd have to look into the history more, I think it's a good thing to try. It's an easy one to adapt, and if we do feel like, after 6 months it's getting burdensome, or okay, we were doing a lot of these, but like I totally agree with Danny's, the spirit of it, and the benchmarking of other districts is that are bigger and probably spending more, we should be, just makes sense, at that number or, lower, and just try it to see if it does help us make a few more smarter decisions. And I don't think, it's a big part of what I do, bidding all the time, stuff out. It's a huge part. I'm very used to it. I've never had a time where I'm like, oh, I got so many that I got forced into a worse decision. It's more about, you always learn a lot through getting bids, what's out there, especially with the world changing so fast.
Budgets are tight, transparency is important. I would agree with what Corey and Danny have to say. You know, we can try it for a while and see how it.
Okay. So as it reads right now, it's $10,000, anything over 10,000 requires 2 quotes.
At least.
At least, yep. Anything over 25,000 requires competitive bids, which would be an RFP.
Yep.
And then there's a $250,000 spending limit, but
Well,
that's,
it's not a limit, it just says that the board should be advised of all purchases, equipment, materials, and services when the purchase exceeds
I thought it
$250,000.
was approval, not advice, it's advised.
but we know that's construction related, we can address that.
So, yeah, so I guess what are you asking for, Danny?
I would like board approval for purchases over 15,000, even if it's been pre-budgeted.
Even if they have quotes and
Yep.
everything, you want board approval for
That's right.
anything over 15,000?
Yes, thank you.
So I guess the question here, obviously, this is the first time we've discussed it, the question would be, do we bring this back to the next meeting? Allow people 2 weeks to dig into it and make a motion, or does the board say, I'm comfortable with how it reads today and we don't want to pursue this anymore?
I think what's been discussed, that the motion would be to bring it to the policy committee to clean it up if we're gonna put a construction policy together for the 650 or the 250,000. And adjust whatever she's talking about adjusting and present it.
That's fine.
So you're saying we would take a vote to send it to the policy committee?
So, yeah, and we'd have to read it again. We don't really know what we're talking about yet.
It seems like something they could, yeah, have a little time to clean it up, like using the conversation to get there.
Template.
Just encouragement to use board docs.
And you'll,
Has in the link she sent. I think they both linked. Switched it.
Okay, so I think the question is, do we pass this to the policy committee, or do we leave it as it reads today? Would you like to do a roll call vote on that? Do you want to just, yes, roll call? Okay. I always start with you, Steve, but I'll.
So we're gonna make a
Oh.
motion.
Yeah, we make a motion.
Right.
Very good.
I make a motion to pass it to the policy committee for further review.
Pass policy 6320.
Yes.
Okay. Motion by Corey, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Steve, discussion. I know everyone has kind of talked already. I'll just say, I don't think it's necessary to pass to the policy committee. I'm comfortable with how it reads, I'm comfortable with the administration and their decisions. I don't feel like I've ever not been informed. I had a conversation with Dr. Donnelly when this was brought up, asking, can you give me an example of something that would fit? We came up with nothing that the board wouldn't be notified on, or there wouldn't be competitive quotes obtained. So I don't support passing it on to the policy committee. I prefer to leave it as is. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd be fine bringing it back, kind of like close out of this project. And then on that 250,000.
When do we close this project?
Maybe September.
September?
Yeah, we should small out the building and then. yeah,
So to bring back
there.
then.
I would prefer that we wait until then to, if we are gonna send it to the policy committee, I'd prefer to wait until
That
we're
would be
ready
fine.
to change something.
That would be my thought. Not
So
to
there's
anything big project and then bring it back then. Because we're already getting competitive bids. We're already getting quotes. So that won't change.
So we can amend that motion to add the waiting for the construction and bring it to the policy committee. Is that, we can do that, right?
Yeah, if you want to
Amend your motion.
amend the motion.
I don't want to amend the motion, I like to vote on that and then redo it, but, a big project near the end shouldn't be having a lot of change orders and stuff, it should be writing out, right?
No,
No, come on. No.
Any other discussion on this motion?
many decades telling you no.
All right.
I'll amend the motion. I'll amend the motion to.
Well, you didn't make the motion. Okay,
Can anybody amend the motion?
maybe,
Doesn't
If
the
there's a
motion
second
need
to the amendment.
if there's a second to the
Okay.
amendment.
I make a motion to amend the motion.
Yeah.
Is that?
I feel like we,
You're making a motion to amend the motion to,
I think there needs to be a vote on it, on the original motion.
no, first we can vote on her amendment. I think.
So you can amend the motion in the way that a second would have to happen that, and then we'd have to vote on that amendment.
What has the original motion?
It's
It'd
amended,
be,
and then we vote on it.
And
It's
then we
amended,
vote
yeah.
on that.
but if it fails, the original fails.
Then we would have to vote on the original motion.
Got it, okay, go ahead and make your amendment.
I make the amendment to move policy 6320 to the policy committee after the construction of the building.
I'll second that one.
Okay, so there's a motion by Danny to amend the original motion to bring policy 6320 to the policy committee for review upon completion of the referendum construction project. Is that right? And a second by Bruce. Any discussion on the amended?
Do you have a year or a decade when that's expected?
Done in September.
We think September?
Yeah, we should have closed out at the latest by the end of the year.
That would work for the policy committee too, right? Our next meeting would be then, around that time?
Any other discussion? I'll just make a statement. If we're going to do that, I prefer to just bring this back to the agenda in September when we know everything is done, instead of fresh. That would be my comment. Any other comments? Okay, and we want a roll call vote?
Sure.
Okay, I'll start with you, Danny, that's right.
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes,
Ian?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Myself? No. Motion passes. This will be sent to the policy committee for review in,
So what, that's the amendment that we had.
we passed the amendment, now you have to vote on the amended motion.
oh, that's the,
Yeah.
all right.
So it is.
Okay, now we gotta vote on the actual motion, which is the amended motion that she made, okay.
And all members.
Yeah, do we need a roll call vote for this one?
No.
Okay, is there any discussion on it? And we're clear on what the motion is, the actual motion now?
I get it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Motion passes, 6-1.
Do you mean nay?
Nay. I oppose.
All right, good, thanks everybody.
All right, motion passes, it'll come back in September-ish. Policy 3210, staff ethics. Danny.
Let's see, this is coming back the second time. We talked about the handbook last time and comparing this to the sample policy to the handbook, because it was said that they were similar. I looked through the handbook, I didn't see controversial flags or controversial material, that type of thing in the handbook, which is probably the reason why I brought it to the board. So, that's it.
Did everyone have a chance to review those attachments?
I did review the attachments in our employee handbook. The section that I have written down is 1.3.33. I don't have the specific language in front of me, but that section spoke about political activity. It may not use these exact words that are in the policy, but political activity is addressed.
I guess I would like it specific.
Perhaps we should look at that language. Let me see if I can find it quickly.
Yeah, if you can bring up the handbook, that'd be great.
jump me.
Do you have it?
I do.
She's got to pull it.
Do you want me to read it? Or?
Do you mind?
Okay, hang on a second.
Sure.
While I get there. 1.33.
Yeah, these are similar to other policies or other districts that you've seen.
Yep, I listed those last 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Okay, I'm there. Did anybody else want to get there?
Go ahead, someone wants to read it.
Employees may exercise the rights and privileges of any citizen in matters of a political nature consistent with the following restrictions. No school employee shall, during hours for which pay is received and during which a student is present, engage in any activity for the solicitation, promotion, election, or defeat of any referendum, candidate for public office, legislation, or political action. That's A. B is no school employee shall use in any way the classrooms, buildings, or pupils for the purpose of solicitation, promotion, election, or defeat of any referendum, candidate for public office, legislation, or political action. And C is no school employee shall make use of any school equipment or materials for the purpose of solicitation, promotion, election, or defeat of any referendum, candidate for public office, legislation, or political action.
That's handbook 1.3.33.
There.
Further discussion.
In other districts, so you see any consistencies or differences between handbook versus policy and that nature?
Both. There's just changes to, there's memos sent out, there's handbook changes, and then there's also policy changes. It's spread across the board, but all similar things said.
So the handbook, does it address flags, signs, things like that?
Here,
Yeah.
not specific.
No, I didn't hear that. I was just curious. Anybody else heard that?
Well, not those specific words, but
Right.
the intent is clear.
So this is back on our agenda for a second time, and the action would be, does the policy committee accept this to review, draft changes, and bring it back to the board?
Does the policy committee look at handbooks? Is that?
Well, we
Well,
would
this-
be changing the handbook.
I was talking about
We would be
policy.
changing the
Oh,
policy.
it would.
Yeah, I'm saying,
okay.
yeah, this is back on to decide, do we send 3210 to the policy committee
Got it.
to research and come back to us? We've all been able to look at it, we should just have been able to decide if this needs work or if it doesn't. We all got emails from staff, so we can all make a decision on which way they should go. Does anyone else have any further discussion on it?
So it's in the purview of the policy committee to recommend moving handbook verbiage to policy
Nope.
if they find.
No, this would be, the policy committee gets 3210, they can
Change it to.
talk to Neola, make changes,
Alright.
then it comes to us to decide do we adopt it or do we not.
Okay.
Yeah, so the action tonight would be, do we just leave it as is, or do we want the policy committee to do their work?
Well, the real change between the two is, I mean, the wording's very similar, and then such as, and lists specific things.
I like the specific things.
Well, such as, what if it's not in there? I mean, it's not specifying, saying things like this. It's kind of, it's what's there now.
And that's, I will say, some of the emails from staff filled some of those same questions,
Yeah.
right? You can all go back and read your emails about observations through the middle school on what teachers are doing in flex time, what books they want to read. If we add specifics, does it muddy the water on both sides and actually make it more restrictive?
I don't know if it's any more or less. It's the same thing. I mean, they're using their position or public property versus political, religious versus specifically flags or. This here, to me, would imply that all those.
When you say this here, what are you pointing at?
Existing policy covers exactly all those such ases, right?
So how would you interpret a cup that says God bless America?
Well, that's the question, and that's why we,
Is that a such as? Because according to that next one, that could be.
yeah.
And then it wouldn't be allowed.
Right.
And in my opinion, I don't think we want to go down that road. Because we also have to consider First Amendment rights.
That was my thought. If somebody wants to read a religious devotional book on their flex time, I don't think we should be limiting staff from being able to do that. And I think if we make this policy more restrictive, that does just that. That's exactly what my concern is.
But if you get rid of the religious and just put political in there, is that possible?
Well, an example that was sent to us in an email was, what if you're wearing a national park shirt? A shirt that says National Park something or other. You know, might someone view that as a political statement when funding for national parks is being
I think that's a stretch.
reduced? I don't know, it was a question that we received in an
Yeah,
email.
that's a stretch.
I think we have staff and administrators who know what's appropriate and not appropriate, and we let them handle those matters in their schools. And I don't think we need to nitpick to a T. We have a policy in there, and I think if the administrators feel that it's being abused, it's in their right to talk to staff about it. That's how
Because there is a dress code.
right.
I don't think a dress code would cover coffee cups, but
Okay, so this is, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think 3210 as it is now covers all the same stuff. I don't really see a reason to change it. Either policy is probably gonna come back to 9130 if somebody has an issue.
Unless that employee doesn't think something is political.
91
It's not up to
is
the
a
employee then.
complaint.
No, I understand.
And that's, I guess I'm saying, that, you know, if we're in a building and if administrators can review that with them, like, if there's something that comes up.
Is there a different policy that speaks to, or maybe it's more of a handbook thing? If there's an issue between any staff or whatever, or community or whatever, that just of like how it should be handled. So to me, it's the bigger thing. Like, what's the
That's
spirit of the rule so that.
That's 9130, right? So
Yeah.
policy 9130 addresses complaints.
If somebody has an issue, that's the roadmap for it.
That lays out the procedure that they
Yeah.
would follow.
And that's where I'm at.
Because that's where.
Ultimately brings us to us if there's no resolution.
But it should start at the
Yes.
lowest level.
In the
So if
building.
someone has a concern
Yeah.
with something
Yeah.
a particular
Totally agree with
staff
that.
member is wearing or showing or using, displaying, then the person should address that concern with that particular
Yep.
staff member first. And then you go through the chain of command to the building principal, the superintendent.
I got it, I know.
Many things will alleviate themselves before we have to deal with it.
Yes.
So we've discussed this twice. Is there a motion to do anything with this policy 3210 tonight?
I'll
I would
make
like-
a motion that we keep 3210 as it is.
So there's a motion from Lori to leave 3210 as it is published currently. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ian. Discussion.
Yeah, Alicia? Isn't this in our revision pile? Or am I getting?
3210?
Am I getting it mixed up with another
No,
one that's
I
similar?
think it is, but if you give me 1 second.
With revisions from Neola.
Yeah.
Currently have, 1 second.
There's another,
Actually,
Is it
It's-
3230?
yes, which
Okay.
is ethics and conflict of interest.
Ah, got it, okay.
I was thinking it was too, no,
All right.
so it's not.
Okay, there's a motion, and a second, discussion.
I know it's the board's job to set policy and not the superintendent, but it seems like, you know, they're so involved with staff and being the arbiter of interpreting these things. I would like to know Dave's opinion on something like this before deciding to do away with it, or maybe he's got a good recommendation for it.
Well, we're not doing away with it, this would just remain as is.
Yeah.
I mean, doing away with the
Oh, got it.
attempt to change, you know, because I think Dan's done a lot of great work, and there's obviously reasons for it, so.
Yeah, I think there's reasons.
There's room for improvement.
And I think our incoming superintendent has probably dealt with an issue like this before. I'd like to hear his feedback.
Okay. Any discussion?
That can all still happen.
Right. Lori, Bruce, any discussion? Okay, so there's a motion and a second to leave 3210 as is. We'll do a roll call vote. Steve, we'll go to your side.
Yes.
Corey?
No.
Ian?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Danny?
No.
Myself, yes. Motion passes 5-2 to leave 3210 as is. Item number 15, future board meetings. The draft document's attached. Does anyone want to start with any discussion? This is always a tough one to lay out the calendar for the next year. I looked through it, I didn't see any errors. Typically, I always see if I can find an error somewhere. Did anyone see anything?
Well, there's not an error, but it would be nice if we could address the June 1st meeting now, because I
Oh.
already know that the CISA meeting is going to be June 1st.
So we just move it to
The third or something?
If
Well,
that-
or do we
Tuesday.
move it to the next week? We put it on the 8th and the 20.
Oh, shit, that 2 weeks.
Or would you prefer to go, just do the meeting on Tuesday, the day after? So we keep our same flow.
Well, the problem this year was playoff games and athletic events, and even though it's a Wednesday, there's a playoff game
Got
on
rained
a.
Because it got rained out last
Oh.
night. Well, no, there would have been
No, it would've
anyways.
been anyways.
There would have been
But
anyways.
this-
Tuesday's a bad night
Yeah.
at this time of the calendar year because you potentially could have softball sectionals
Baseball.
on Tuesday and the second round of baseball regionals. Wednesday, you really in theory wouldn't have anything unless the baseball team made it to the regional final. So you're juggling one team, one schedule versus multiple.
And isn't there soccer too?
Soccer, when their first round game is on, they start really late, they start
So
Thursday.
tomorrow is their first
First one.
playoff game? So just because of all those games, I'm wondering if Bruce's suggestion might be best.
Would moving it a week,
The 8th and then
I believe? Yeah, so pushing
the
it.
8th and the
Yep,
22nd.
trying to think.
I just
Softball,
I was just
softball would be
I was just
state
looking.
tournament week, baseball sectionals are that Tuesday,
Tuesday.
you'd have nothing on that Monday.
Yeah.
Oh, Alicia, can you make that adjustment?
Yep.
So move June of 2026 out 1 week. Does anyone else see anything? We're on holidays.
Well, I'm sure we're on the fine arts, aren't we?
Fine, yeah, so that one came up.
I'm
So-
thinking we should be earlier on this one. Usually
Really?
it's the 24th or so when Fine Arts is.
Usually the last
and we're in February 16th this year.
So as we get to
We're
fine arts,
ahead of it.
yeah, I mean, much like we did tonight, I would fully support, once we know that date, if we want to move the meeting a day or change our time, we can't do it yet because we don't know. But I think we should be maybe a little more aggressive in just making that change.
That always happens in December too. Isn't there one in December
A
on the 15th?
winter concert.
So that comes over, we can look.
Okay. All right, so that'll get changed. Sorry, what's that?
Say, our Tough Sal, they have the concert on Tuesday.
There you go.
That document will get changed. It'll be back on the meeting in 2 weeks and we'll
Look at our meeting, we're here first.
prove it.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do, right?
What's that?
They're supposed to take other things into account, but maybe it's because of
So
basketball.
I would just say it's gonna
and all
be,
that.
you're gonna run into sports on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which are your biggest days
The
for
conference
like
schedules.
wrestling.
Look at
and-
everyone here.
Yeah. I missed the baseball game today. Kind of sad about that. They did win, so.
Thanks,
Go
Sarah.
tomorrow night. Yep, we'll go to.
All right, item number 16, consent agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion to approve these items?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the personnel update and the athletics activities personnel update.
I'll second.
Motion by Lori, a second by Bruce. Discussion. No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 17, general information, June 16th. That is our regular session. It's less than 2 weeks because it's Wednesday today. There is a listening session 30 minutes prior. I have not looked at the document. Is there anyone signed up?
I haven't looked.
If not, if you're available and you can be here, please look at the document, sign up. And then number 18, district celebrations. Lori, start with you. Start in the middle.
Are you sure? Well, first of all, I would like to thank all of our school district staff, from custodians to superintendent, for completing another school year and providing the best possible learning opportunities for all of our students. And I know that many of you are going to be continuing that work through the summer, with summer school. Congratulations to Susan Richardson, 26 years in the district, and I know Joe especially, but everybody at the middle school is going to miss her tremendously. Brenda Germain, 28 years as a kindergarten teacher, bless her heart. Congratulations to her. Thank you to Shannon for all her years of service to the district as pupil services director, and then high school principal, and then finally a superintendent, and best of luck in your future endeavors. Thank you to Leslie Thomas for her continued work in receiving another DCF grant. I think it might be the last one because that program comes to the end, I think, June 2025. Thanks to Woodstock Builders for, again, their generosity in building a garden shed for which the Somerset Memorial Scholarship Committee will be selling raffle tickets. There is a limited amount. You only have 300 opportunities. They're $20 each, so I hope I see you at Peace of Days to buy a raffle ticket. And it looks like the social school for Edu is up and running, and I clicked on it, and there's tons of posts and pictures, and people are liking and sharing and commenting, and they're also doing stuff with Instagram too. So great job there. 10 Peace of Days. At our CSUM meeting on Monday, they talked about some paraprofessional training that's taking place over the summer. And Jessie Thorson let me know that she has already sent that out to our paraprofessionals, and there's a lot of interest in it. It was well attended last year. It's already scheduled for 2 different days because there's so much interest in it, and they might be going to 3 days. And if anybody listening to the meeting is interested in becoming a substitute teacher, there is substitute teacher training being offered at CISA as well. And we can provide a link to that information so that you can sign up for that training. Thank you.
I feel like you spoke a little louder, so hopefully everybody heard that. Ian?
I think we should do district celebrations, Lori Largen, 15 minutes. Boys basketball, or baseball, congratulations. Wow, cover everything.
I tried. But I always miss something, Ian.
And thank you, Sarah, Pam, Joe, Trent, for coming in and sharing all your stuff with us.
Corey?
Yeah, I went to the 4th grade field trip last week to the History Center, and that was phenomenal. Sitting with a bunch of kids inside a bomber as they learn about paratroopers is kind of my specialty, but watching them and they're just glued. That was really cool. That was a great museum, so that positive thing. And then just, I think, great experience, you know, new board member and hiring a superintendent was quite a process, and everyone involved did a great job, and very excited for the future.
Steve? Excited about the future and Dr. David Grambau's new leadership.
Danny?
Congratulations to the parent group for their fundraising and the new swings.
Bruce?
Thanks to the teachers that are offering those AP courses, Cody Wallen, like you said, and Corey Lindenberg, offering a speech class. Thanks for doing that. Corey already hit the retirements, but again, people have been around here a long time that I remember do things above and beyond in the school. In a great place, so appreciate them. State track this weekend, we have 4 people. We're going down there.
4 and 5 events.
Yeah, so good luck to them. And then just another, we had the JK presentation or end of the year celebration last Friday at the elementary school, which was great. Thanks Pam and the rest of the staff for making that happen. And then, I mean, the one thing that you don't see is a lot of kids have to walk by and go from class to class, or go to the gym, or go. And if you watch them walk, outside the recess and follow that path like to a T, it's pretty darn impressive that's what we have them doing. And the kids not saying a word as you're the whole time the
They were
JK
honoring the junior
presentation was.
kindergartners, right?
Yeah, it was pretty good. So thanks to our students.
Yeah, I'll just finish up and say the Wax Museum was a week and a half ago or so, probably close to our last meeting. I went and walked through it. That's probably one of my favorite things in the elementary. Just when you can see all the different perspectives and ideas that age has. And then, you know, congratulations to all the staff, and I really appreciate all the work you did for this school year. You know, this one's done, but we got another one coming, so the work can't stop, but I really appreciate all the dedication you guys have given. And then the last thing, I do want to just recognize the board. We don't really ever celebrate ourselves, but we've got a lot of unique perspectives and opinions on this board, and we made it through a school year. We've got a lot of good things ahead of us, and I really appreciate all of the work all of you bring. You know, we're never going to agree on everything, but I think we're in a spot where we've got just the future ahead of us. So I really appreciate the time you've taken away from your families, sports, to sit at these tables and support these folks right here. So just know that I really appreciate all of the work we've done as a board in general. That's all I have. I'll take a motion to move into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85, paragraph 1C, for consideration of employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data for any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility.
So moved.
A motion by Danny, a second by Corey. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We're in closed session.
See you guys.
Okay, thanks, everybody.